There have been many times in my life when stepping outside my bounds, I was asked, just who in the hell do you think you are? I ask you the same question in this video, only in a different context. Are you a human being seeking a spiritual experience? Or are you a spirit seeking a human experience? Just who do you think you are? Here's a foolproof way to tell. When you walk into a pitch dark room and flip on a light switch, does the resulting light illuminate the contents of the room such that you can see them in their individuality, marked with color, bulk, and form? If you answer yes to the question, then you are a human seeking a spiritual experience. A no answer means you realize that by flipping on the light switch, you generate photons, the units of light, which reflect off of the individual objects in the room into your eyes. The reflected photons carry information which the brain-mind complex interprets and you perceive as content. At least that's what I think happens, but I'm not 100% sure. The imagery you perceive might also be an illusion. The spirit you recognizes that the eyes are not video cameras recording activity taking place external to the body. They are signal receivers. The eyes receive the light, focus it on the retina, and convert it into electrical signals which are transmitted to the brain for processing. Thus, the content of the room actually manifests as an electrical impulse in the brain. Once in the brain, the impulse is processed and interpreted, becoming perceptible as images in color and 3 dimension. How an electrical impulse in the brain becomes perceptible as objects is challenging enough. That's all and well and good, but an important point is missing. On what medium are the interpreted imagery displayed? Is there a tiny movie screen behind your eyes? If so, who's watching it? And how does he skirt around the issue of how electrical impulses in his brain become perceptible? And by the way, that tiny screen's never been found on the brain surgeon's operating table or the coroner's autopsy slab. Same argument can be made with what we refer to as hearing. The ears don't hear. They collect pressure fluctuations in ambient air. The fluctuations, called sound waves, enter the ear canal and reach the eardrum. They cause the eardrum to vibrate. The vibrations are transmitted to 3 small bones in the middle ear, commonly known as the hammer, anvil, and stirrup. The movement of these bones amplifies the vibration and transmits them in the inner ear, where like imagery, they are converted to electrical impulses in the brain, then interpreted as a wide range of sounds, from a quiet whisper to loud music. The question remains, where does the noise come from? An air-filled balloon pops when it is pricked with a pin. Where does the popping sound come from? As far as the balloon is concerned, all that happens is a sudden rush of air that disturbs the ambient air the once air-filled balloon was floating in. Same argument can be made with the remainder of the senses. The eyes don't see, the ears don't hear, the fingers don't feel, the tongue doesn't smell, the tongue doesn't taste, and the nose doesn't smell. The sense organs are signal receivers that ultimately produce an electrical impulse in the brain, which is interpreted as images, noise, taste, pain, and so forth. The bottom line is this. You're like an airplane pilot landing his plane in zero visibility fog, totally dependent upon instruments to understand what is taking place outside the aircraft. You have no way of knowing the world outside you. A communication as communicated by the senses. It is knock, 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 real, or is it? You can make a case that it is real because everyone else around you has the same sensory experience. Even so, mutual agreement doesn't necessarily trans to realness. The imagery, the sound, taste, and so forth are created by the mind-brain complex. That's not to say the creation is not an exact reflection of what is out there. It says it is created. And like all creations, it is changeable. It could all be illusion as far as you know, and you can't prove otherwise. I'm reminded of the Virgin Mary's final appearance at Fatima, Portugal. It happened at around noon on October 13th, 1917, when she produced the so-called miracle she promised the 3 children she had appeared to in the prior 5 months. Called the miracle of the sun seemed to spin, dip toward Earth, and then return to its normal position in the sky. The event was witnessed by an estimated 70,000 people, with media coverage as well. There's something strange taking place. At noon in Fatima, Portugal, it was daylight in the area bounded by the U.S. Atlantic seaboard, Moscow, Beijing, New Delhi, Saudi Arabia, and back to Fatima. None of the billions of people in this geographic area have reported seeing unusual sun movement, nor were there reports of adverse effects that for sure would have occurred had the sun changed location. Moreover, Mary appeared to the children for 6 straight months at Fatima, 2 girls and a boy. All 3 could see her, but the boy could not hear her speak, even though he was not hearing impaired. The crowd of onlookers that grew with each monthly visit could not see or hear her. In Luke 24:16, we read that the resurrected Jesus joined 2 of his disciples who were on the road to Emmaus, but they did not recognize him. Quote, their eyes were prevented from recognizing him. Then, later in verse 31, after supping with him, we learn that their eyes were open and they recognized him, but he vanished from their sight. The point I make here is the mind is vulnerable to being messed with. That which is in front of you is not necessarily as it appears. The emotional aspect of sensory experience adds to the mystery. The sensory sensations that we have are accompanied by rummaging around in a memory box that connects emotion with the experience. Emotion here means wants, needs, desires, successes, failures, past experience, and so forth. For those of us who believe in reincarnation, the memory box covers not only the current life, but past lives as well, and there are thousands of them to draw from. All of the rummaging around inevitably produces a hero or a victim, from which comes the notion of a very real self that lives rent-free in your head, just waiting for an audience to perform to. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus tells us that only those who recognize their spirit nature will enter the kingdom. In the last part of saying number 22, he tells the disciples to make eyes in place of an eye, a hand in place of a hand, a foot in place of a foot, an image in place of an image. That is, if you expect to make it to the promised land, called heaven, you must learn to think differently. Thinking differently means recognizing that the reality you experience in the day-to-day exists only in your mind, that it is created and it is susceptible to outside influences, which are made worse by rummaging around in a memory box seeking an emotional response to mate with the sensory experience, bringing out the hero-victim personality centered around the chaotic events of life. The untrained mind will always come up with an explanation for what it can't understand, selecting, embellishing, erasing, making up stories, theories, even whole belief systems. However, when you learn to think differently, if you're anything like me, life will become a spectator sport. Your spirit nature will shine. You will occupy a front row seat in the audience, watching the actors scurry around, frantically seeking pleasure, comfort, and security. It's a tragedy and a comedy all wrapped up into one. You become aware of, so this is what it's like to be human. The next time you flip a switch and light up a room, and light up a pitch dark room, think about what really happens. The seed of something powerful and transformative will have been planted. And like magic, your true spirit will begin to emerge. It's but a tiny step, probably an uncomfortable and contrived one initially, but one step will lead to another. Ultimately, they all add up to a great distance. And slowly but surely, you will learn to realize just who you are, a spirit seeking a human experience. The human seeking a spiritual appearance think they are on an ark, when all along they're on the sinking Titanic. That will not be you. Your spiritual demeanor will pay dividends when your clock strikes midnight. Heaven will lie at your doorstep. Thank you for watching.